Hello, this is Gino Blafari. Welcome to my new series, Close to Home, where I interview real estate professionals and different business professionals about their expertise and really how they got to where they are today. My first guest today is Laurie Lane with Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices. Laurie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, I'm happy to be here.
So Laurie, tell us a little bit about yourself. Give our viewers a little backstory on how you got to where you are today.
Well, thank you for asking, Gino. My story is a little different than most. I didn't actually grow up in a traditional real estate environment. I actually went to opera school. So that was my first journey.
You know, it's funny, Laurie, because so many people did not start right out in real estate. You're right.
So my goal was to actually get into music and started in opera, but I ended up going out to Los Angeles where, long story, graduated from USC and ended up working for Interscope, Geffen and A&M. And
Are you a singer?
I am. I don't sing as much today. I actually got to LA and realized I was probably a little too naive to be in the music business unless it was the business side. So I went back to college and then worked in artist management and then at Interscope, Geffen and A&M before I made the decision to move my family.
How did you transition from music to real estate?
Well, it was when I was working for Interscope, I became pregnant with my second child and realized my upbringing in Minnesota made me feel that my children needed a similar upbringing and not maybe in the rock and roll world.
Not the Hollywood rock and roll group.
Didn't think that was probably best for them. So I ended up in Atlanta. And when I got there, I made the choice to go into real estate because I felt it was the one opportunity I had to make a career change.
Sure. Now, of all the places, you grew up in Minnesota, you were in Hollywood, and then Atlanta. I mean, you're trying to do it like a triangle, or what's
Oddly, well, I went to Indiana University first for opera, and my best friend from Indiana had just moved to Atlanta, and so they invited me to come visit after my son was born, and so we all went up and went to the golf tournament at Sugarloaf, and I fell in love with Atlanta. Went there for Thanksgiving, saw the leaves changing, and it was Minnesota, but with milder winters and beautiful falls and wonderful springs. And I thought this would be a great place to raise my kids without going back to Minnesota.
And it turned out that it was, wasn't it?
It's fabulous. Yeah. I love it.
Okay. So Laurie, now we're in Atlanta, right? And so real estate, how did that come up?
I looked at Atlanta and realized I could go into the music business because there's a thriving business there, but I'd always wanted to get into real estate. I loved houses. I loved what everybody thinks they like, which is, just walking through a beautiful home. So I went and got my license to see if that was an avenue for me. Okay,
so you just came upon that yourself, that, hey, I think I might like real estate because I, like so many people, I like houses, I like working with people, things like that. Was there did somebody make a big impact on you when you got into the business?
Well, I will say I was very naive. So I, coming from the world I was in, thought you send your resume and somebody picks you up and offers you a position. That was sort of my take. So I sent my resume to every big company in Atlanta, and nobody called me.
Nobody called you back. What was your first company?
My first company was Coldwell Banker. So it was very funny. I was calling teams at different companies. Nobody wanted to work with me. No one wanted to deal with me. And then lo and behold, when I was starting to I did go visit one company, and they pretty much said I'd make no money in the first year, and it might cost me about $5,000. So that was a big turnoff. And then Nancy Carl called from Coldwell Banker and said she had my resume and told me not to go anywhere until I talked to her. So I got in my car and drove the 45-minute drive to her office in Sandy Springs, where she introduced me to her top agents, told me how I could be successful based on my resume. She really kind of got who I was just by that. On the drive there, oddly enough, I was on the phone with my brother, who said, "You should ask about new construction." To which I said, "Why would I do that? That makes no sense to me." But while I was sitting there interviewing, I wanted to act like I knew something.
Sure.
So I said, "Well, what about new construction?"
How ironic is that? Right?
Yes. And she said, "Oh, no, not till you've had at least 3 years experience doing resale." 3 months later, I was on site. She had a builder that needed somebody, and I was new and fresh, and she said, "You know what, you're not going to make much money, but we're going to put you out there."
Yeah, well, as I recall, wasn't she an expert on the new construction? She was very well known for new construction there in Atlanta.
Come to find out, Nancy Carl was a legend in Atlanta, worked with lots of different builders and developers, had a fierce reputation, and fortunately for me, she started putting me places. I was selling very well. and I continued to grow with her. She was an incredible mentor for me. And when she retired, I wouldn't leave her till she retired. When she retired, I told her I really wanted to go into the business side of it. I wanted to get back to management. You know, I managed artists in Los Angeles, and
Right.
I like managing.
Yeah, and I remember at that time, that was that time where Dan was actually looking for, Dan Forsman of Georgia Properties was looking for someone for new construction. Didn't he reach out to her?
He did. So he
did.
called Nancy
Okay.
and said, who would you recommend to be someone to run our new homes division?
And she said, only one.
Yes. So when I interviewed with Dan, he said, why are you the only name she gave me? Which for me was a huge compliment. Also surprising. I didn't know how much she liked me. She'd actually tried to convince me to stay an agent because she thought I could make more money as an agent. But she's the reason I'm here.
Great.
So that's how I fell into the role with Dan.
You know, during your time now at Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices Georgia Properties, we've seen tremendous growth in new homes.
Yes. Well, so I joined the company in 2006 and had 2 years of incredible growth even then, but slowly builders started to stop selling and things started to foreclose, and of course the downturn arrived.
Yeah.
And
when did the downturn specifically hit Atlanta with builders? Because I know land is usually that first thing to go down in value.
well, we started to feel it around the end of 2007, 2008. By the end of 2008, the writing was on the wall everywhere, and that's when, like every other company, they downsized their new homes, which meant I had to eliminate my entire staff. Moved the operation into my house and really kept it moving only because we still had clients who had taken away their in-house sales and trusted us with their in-house sales. And so it became, a project of how do I let them survive, in the meantime survive myself.
Sure, sure. So yeah, you have that dynamic, I think, when there's the market's really hot and they can sell everything, they bring the sales in-house.
Yes.
When it's not so hot, so during that recession piece where they can't afford to have a staff person, but they can afford to pay a commission, did you find that the
That's
case?
what happened. So a couple of the clients we took in, some of ours went under, of course, and went away, or they couldn't, all their land foreclosed, or they couldn't get construction loans, but a couple of the bigger ones brought it all in. And I will tell you, that was the hardest time of my life. Going into 2009, I made a lot of life changes so that I could handle everything I had to handle, but I will always equate it to the very best year of my life. Never have I ever learned truly what a talent I do have for what my business is.
For new home sales.
And I feel like sometimes when you have to go through the challenging side, you really learn what you're made of and what you're capable of. And I think sometimes people look, I had very few years of experience in real estate before I took on this leadership role. I think people thought maybe I got it just because I was lucky, right place, right time. I earned my right at this point to say I'm good at my job. And without the downturn, I may have never known myself.
Sure. No magic, no special connections, just a lot of hard work.
Just a lot of hard work.
And your skill.
And really within that 2009, we took our clients. I mean, I only had one manager working with me, so I was on site. I was the office administrator, I was the broker, I was the listing coordinator, I was the marketing manager, and I sometimes cleaned the restroom if I needed to and model. It was whatever you have to do. And so I don't have a problem telling my agents, I wouldn't ask you to do anything I haven't already done.
I think it was probably maybe 2015, the first time that we met. And I remember so well this terrific video you did, and you brought in all the developers. Let's let the viewers take a peek at it.
Because we're all about the sale, no trouble. We're all about the sale, no trouble. We're all about the sale, no trouble. We're all about the sale, about that sale.
So here's what happened. After the recession, we were really thriving as a new homes division. At this point, we had taken in all sorts of clients because we were really the only one in town, and a lot of the top new home professionals came to work for me. So our business exploded, and that's where our growth happened.
So you were gathering real estate professionals from other companies that were interested in new sales?
A whole marketing division that came over, great agents, great managers. So I really dominated in that world, and I took one builder from 50 sales a year to 450 sales a year. So it was a great time for us, and it was an evolution in our business. People were coming back. They were getting back out there. Building was up and happening again. And so at the annual Home Builder Awards, they had asked us to be the video sponsor. And it was really the first Home Builder Awards where everybody was back and they were excited and their lives had changed and we were building houses again. And so I didn't want to do an infomercial about how great we are and brag about, the company, something that's so typical. And so my thought was, let's do something that no one's expecting, that will be fun. They can't take their eyes off it, and but it still tells our story, but it lets people feel good.
Laurie, you played a huge role in the luxury division. How did you build that into such a success?
Well, that's an interesting story too. So the one thing about being New Homes is I have a wonderful CEO, as you know, Dan Forsman.
Sure.
And maybe I shouldn't say this, but he had an ask for forgiveness later policy with me in New Homes, which is really, in my opinion, why we were so successful, because he really let me just run. So when we became
Kinda
Berkshire
how Dan
Hathaway,
operates.
it is, and that's why I'm there.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
But in luxury, there was a conversation that kept taking place about the new look and the new brand. And I'm very opinionated, as you know, and I felt strongly that we needed a different look for luxury. So at some point, Dan said, okay, fine, if you think it needs a different look, just go figure it out.
Yeah, your daughter had something to do with this too.
That
right?
was
she
later.
At a school? Oh, that was later?
That was later,
Okay.
yes. So the first initial round, I was doing the video all about that sale when this took place. And Dan said, just go do it, and if we like it, we'll look at doing it. So the same man that was working with me on the video, who's not in real estate, I gave him my concept and my ideas, and it was, again, I want to do something nobody else is doing, something that they're going to go, what are they thinking? This has nothing to do with real estate. I don't understand. But it exudes luxury, and it evokes an emotion that makes you tie into us as a luxury brand. And so that's how we went towards fashion. I didn't want any houses in my images. I wanted something that was just lifestyle, which is how we ended up with our lifestyle program.
Right, and it's been a huge success.
It's been a huge success. But as it was successful, it was also one of those same things like what I told you during the downturn. You don't know how good you are until you've had some pitfalls. And for me, it was coming out of the gate with something that most people said was not going to be successful, that I was making a huge mistake with putting the images on the billboards, the women images, and really going that fashion direction. So when it exploded and it was a positive and we were gaining market share like crazy as a luxury brokerage, it was, how am I going to top myself? What am I going to do next? We're going to get through this year. And what am I going to do to follow it up? I got to be consistent. That was really important to me. This is where SCAD comes in. My daughter was touring Savannah College of Art and Design, and that summer, and on the tour they said that they partner with companies. They'd partnered with Porsche and Nike and several others. So of course, light bulb went off, and I said, well, how do I partner? So this led to coming back, talking to Dan, who of course was, I get it, I think it's a great idea. So Dan Forsman and I went to SCAD, and we met with them about doing our own class. And so 4 or 5 months later, we had 16 seniors and graduate students in a room, all working on the Berkshire Hathaway George Properties luxury program.
With your and Dan's direction.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, it was a quarter. They're on quarters, so we had our class, and they got credit for it. And it was fashion majors, photography, marketing, social media. Every aspect that you can imagine was in that room to come up with our theme. And they came up ultimately with the 5 senses of luxury. So, and that's where we really developed our soft touch materials, staying with our theme. We stayed with our theme, but we created, in one of our meetings they said, well, one of the luxury car brands has a scent. I said, I want a scent. So now we have our own scent that they created, which we've made into candles and room sprays. We have boxes that are unique with chocolates in them, and our own wine label, and several different aspects of the 5 senses.
Yeah, do you have any stats on what that did to your market share there in Atlanta?
We grew our market share by 50%.
By 50%.
Now we still,
on a luxury home, and you consider what luxury in Atlanta would be $1 million and above, or?
Well,
or
our
is it
basis now is 750 and above.
750 and above. Okay.
And we continue to grow. So once again, it's that same every year. I have to figure out how we're going to top ourselves next year. So I will say, I think at this moment in time, with both New Homes and luxury being in my building together, I have built a team that I think is the reason that we're still growing and how we're going to be more successful over the next few years.
Talk to me a little bit about how the brand resonates.
Well, the brand has been a wonderful, wonderful thing for our market, and not just for luxury, but also for new construction. Very proud of the name, and I'm not used to being in a brand where I can pick up the phone and call you, and I feel like, unlike any other time in my career, there is more resources, more tools, more support from not just national but local, from the intranet, And I love being able to share that with our clients and give them the very best experience I can possibly give them, whether it's a builder or a luxury consumer. It resonates, but it also, we back it up.
Right. You capitalize on the iconic brand Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices.
Yes.
Laurie, you mentioned social media, and so how are you using that towards getting that end consumer, out there to the consumer?
Well, this is again where a great team. So with that SCAD affiliation, I have someone on my team who's from SCAD who is dedicated to social media. And I'm not the expert, but she is, and she's doing a phenomenal job. And with one of our developments, we did a theme where we had 8 bikes, and every bike had a message, and they were strategically placed all around Midtown and Ponce City area. And at one bike, you would get a message to go to the other bike, and it was all through social media. So just little events to get more likes, more followers, and then we can push our messages to the right consumers at the right time.
What are some of the soft skills that you provide to your potential developers that maybe other people are overlooking? What do you do that's different?
Well, I will tell you that a lot of the builders that we represent are long-term clients, and part of that I think is because every client for me is my most important, and it's important to me to hold everyone accountable, and that's something that has been distinctive in what I do for new homes. The agent on site, their highest and best use is to really be generating their traffic locally on site, grassroots, and then everyone above, from the sales manager to the marketing manager to the listing coordinator, everyone has to be held accountable. And I think that the clients that I have know that if something's not working, I'm going to be the one to call it. I'm not going to protect or hide. I'm going to apologize first and get the job done. And I'm very honest. I'm very straightforward, and I don't abandon. I'm not someone who shows up at the first meeting and never comes back.
Mm-hmm. So
it's a personal relationship.
You can pivot and go in a different direction if needed. Then.
Always,
saying, right?
always. And I have a high expectation for my team. There's reporting. There's just status quo. There's things I expect on site.
How often do they report in?
Every week at least, but I even have some that do daily reports. Not to overwhelm anybody, but just, hey, let me know you're alive. Because being an on-site agent in new construction is a lone island. Sometimes you're out there, I want to touch and feel somebody every day. Whether it's me or the manager or the marketing manager, they need to know they're not out there alone.
Laurie, with all the accomplishments under your belt already, what's next for you?
Well, I ask myself that same question every day. My problem is, and I get very passionate about just about everything I'm working on. So I love new construction. I love the direction we've gone with luxury. And for me, it's really, for the first time in my whole career, I feel like I finally have the team around me that can take me to even another level. So I don't know, we started the City House division, getting more involved in just the look and feel of our brand locally.
Right.
For me, it's whenever I get the creativity bug and another exciting adventure. And fortunately for me, Dan allows me to sometimes go down my path and find something new.
Sure. It happens every year about this time, but it seems a little bit different right now. How are you seeing the market? Is there a change in the market? I keep hearing more and more about the market kind of shifting. It's been just a straight up, but the stock market's doing great, the job market's doing great, but people seem to be a tiny bit concerned now more about real estate.
I agree, that's what the word is, but I don't see it so much for Atlanta. I know our high end is a little slower, but we still have great job growth. We have incredible opportunities coming to the city every day with relocation. We have the film industry moving to Atlanta. So I don't necessarily see that we're not slowing down. We have demand. We have demand for homes.
We have plenty of buyers. There's plenty of buyers. I think they kind of want a little bit of a deal now.
Yeah, we're just, ours is moderate. So we're going like this. We're not going like this. So, a lot of times people want to see this 10% growth. Well, maybe we're at 6% growth, but we're not going this direction in any way, shape, or form. And I don't think that we will. We're going to be steady, moderate, stable. It's going to be a stable market for us. And I think with the cost of lumber and materials and workers going up, it's a little harder sometimes for new construction to beat out the resale, especially in that high end.
So Laurie, thanks for being here for the interview.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to be here with you in Vancouver at Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices Summit event. And thanks everyone for watching.